This week, the focus of the course is very much on looking at issues of contemporary relevance or concern. In this short introductory lecture, I'm going to look at one issue which is actually situated in a larger report that I wrote for the government. In this case, I'm going to really be looking at how hosting the Paralympics in the UK may have had an impact on how disabled people are represented in the UK newspapers. However, I'll introduce the broader report, and indeed there's a link to it this week, so you can go and read it if you wish. But also this week I would encourage you to look at the additional lectures on the site, because many of them look at different issues of contemporary social relevance, and I think you'll find them of interest. So take this as a taster for some of the other lectures prepared for you this week. Now, I'm going to talk you through the research questions that I looked at in the overall project, tell you about the data that I gathered, and here, remember back to the lecture that I gave you on collecting corpora. You'll start to understand more how I actually constructed this data if you do. Think about the methods that we've used, and talk about some of the results that this report produced. You can read the full report, but here I'll focus on results focused upon the disabled or disabled people. But broadly speaking, in the report, I was looking at 3 research questions. Research question 1 was split into 3 parts. To what extent are issues of disability covered in the media? How, if at all, has that changed in recent years? And to what extent is it that the construction of disabled people has shifted? How they're talked about, how they're conceived, how they are constructed. Now for the data, first of all, I used something called the EN 101008 corpus, which is a very large corpus of general English, nearly 3 billion words of it, which is available via a package called Sketch Engine. I've given you the URL so that you can go and visit that site and find out more about a very powerful corpus searching tool, which also gives you access to lots of interesting corpus data. I'd encourage you to go and look at that site. Also, the EN 101012 corpus, and that's a general corpus again from the Sketch Engine site of English in the year 2012. So I was able to compare 2008 general English, if you like, with 2012 general English using those very large corpora. In the case of EN 101012, just over 11 billion words of data. Also on the project, we looked at some Chinese data, and we gathered that, as you can see, from the people.com.cn, which covers many influential newspapers in China. But also, and importantly, because I mentioned it in last week's lecture, we use LexisNexis in order to gather newspaper articles about disabled people from within the UK and from the whole world. So within the UK, in the period just about before the 2008 Olympics in China, or in fact 2005 we gathered from, through to the end of 2012, we collected over 52 million words of data from UK newspapers that mentioned relevant terms. And note there that, of course, I've had to develop those relevant terms. Think back again to last week's lecture where we talked about the process of doing that, and also the lecture that I gave you on refugees and asylum seekers, where again we did that. And you can see there on the slide the full term that we used. For the non-UK data, we gathered just over 6 million words. So those were the data sets that we composed for this study. Some were there already, some we had to gather.